Are you seriously going to eat, you fat blibbity blabbity blob? I mean, some of you might be like,
continual.
why would I want to start this?
Sensitive. She's sensitive.
You are listening to the Tami Talks Unscripted Healing podcast, where we share stories that are, you guessed it, unscripted.
That's the thing, this journey doesn't stop.
It doesn't really
right?
end. We have a general sense of the topic each episode, but really the whole point is just to show up and be authentic and let our inner child speak its truth. And I have continued to work through that story of constantly hearing, well, we don't want, got a hot dog on our hands. Yeah, guess what, Mr. Sabatsky, you do. So I'm so excited that you are here, and it is my hope that you hear yourself somewhere in the story so that way you can feel seen and heard as well. So let's start talking. Welcome to the Tami Talks Unscripted Healing podcast. I am really excited about this episode, and mostly because it literally just came through this morning, and it is Monday, and I'm going to be releasing this on Tuesday. I have only ever waited one other time, I think, to record this late, but that is the holiday season with kids home and funky full moon energy, and here we are. But it worked out because normally I'm coaching at 45 on Monday mornings, but I didn't have to today. So yesterday I knew, I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to rush this message. I'm not going to rush this download. I'm going to wait until it feels like a hell yes. This is what I'm supposed to be putting out there. And it came through so clearly this morning. I woke up at 1 a.m., wide awake. Thank you, full moon, or whatever else I was processing. And I heard this message about moving and about a home, and all of a sudden it just clicked and the metaphors came through so clearly. And then it got confirmed. So I will get into all of that and how this message came through. So stick with me because I think it's kind of a fun one. I mean, it's legit an entire episode of this metaphor. So if you're not digging it, well, just kidding. But I want to share something first that I did around the winter solstice. You are supposed to write down 13 intentions of what you wanted to achieve or do or whatever in this next year. So I did. I'm like, you know what? Okay, I'll play along. I can entertain myself at night with this. So I took time. I wrote down these 13 things. And then every night you were supposed to grab one, not looking at it. And then you were supposed to burn it and kind of releasing that. Like, if this is meant for me, I trust that it is in motion and that it's on its way to me, whatever it is. And just basically releasing that, letting the smoke kind of take away the intention of whatever that was. And I just got to my last one the other night, and you'll never believe what it was. Oh, what a coincidence. It was about the podcast. And here, honestly, there have been times, especially in this last month, that I'm like, am I supposed to keep doing this? Are people listening? Am I reaching anyone? Am I supposed to take this a different direction? There's been thoughts and things coming up around it. And so for that to be the one, I was like, oh, okay. But what I had wrote down was that I am open and available to aligned podcast partnerships and sponsorships that support my voice, my values, and the work I'm doing here. My audience grows naturally as the message reaches who it's meant for. So putting that out there, because apparently that's what God and the universe want me to also be focusing on this year. So if you want to help with that mission and that cause, you can, whether you're someone listening who wants to partner or to be a sponsor, but also growing the audience. You have no idea that those little acts of kindness by liking the episode after you've listened to it, even if you just listened to the intro, you just hit a like that helps a girl out. Or if you rate it, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, you can actually go on there and rate it, and that helps. You could leave a comment, leave a review, leave something that resonates. Those are all ways that can help grow the audience, that can support this mission, especially if you share it. And I know a lot of the times the messages on here are kind of personal, and so you're not like blasting it on your Facebook like, hey, this message really resonated. I totally understand that. But there might be some close people in your life where it does resonate, and for you to share it might allow you to feel seen and heard in whatever aspects of it resonated with you. Or if you think it might help someone else, sharing it can be huge. But any of those things, I can't even tell you how much that helps. So I guess that is the mission for 2026. And so if you want to be a part of that, let's do this. Let's grow this because we're coming up on the 100th episode here and the 2-year anniversary. So, okay, it's go time. But anyway, that's that little thing. And yeah, we're going to put that out there. We're going to start to put some energy back into this. But getting back to the episode and how it came about, again, I hear this message and all the metaphors start coming to me. And then I am sitting in the sauna. I did my workouts backwards. I went to F45 real early in the morning. Normally I work out with them at 5:30, but I was like, I'm up. And so around 3:00, I took off. I'm like, let's just get this party started. So I went back to sauna and then I saw one of my buddies in the sauna and we got talking about this big day that he was having and that he's starting a new career today, which is interesting that 2 of my peeps, 2 of my soul tribe are starting new careers today after they have been on this spiritual, whatever you want to call it. I just, found that very, very interesting. But anyway, he was telling me that over the weekend was able to reconnect with some people from this previous aspect of his life and just kind of clear the air and reconnect and make amends and whatever else needed to be said was able to do out of a place of love and compassion and kindness versus any anger, resentment, or bitterness that maybe was left behind. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that totally aligns with today's episode. And so I shared a little bit with him about what the episode was. And I was like, yes, that's absolutely the energy of right now. And then all of a sudden I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, I had so many other pings this week that absolutely confirm this message. And that New Year's Eve night, Arlo and I were just chilling and somehow we got talking about tree houses. And we started looking up the ideal treehouse because I had a pretty sweet treehouse growing up. It was never finished. We never had a roof on it, but it was huge and it was in this amazing willow tree. And I have so many memories from this willow tree, especially swinging and then, the branch snapping and then you fall and you'll knock the wind out of yourself, all those great childhood memories. But a lot of memories under that willow tree. And the ladder is still there, still on the tree. But I loved that. And so Arlo was talking about his ideal treehouse. And so we got looking on the internet and scrolling through photos. And then I wanted to look at treehouses because no joke, if I could have a house that is somehow in a tree just out in nature and then a lake right out front, I'm gold. I'm done. That's all I need. That's all I need. I don't need much. I just want beautiful little home in nature by the water. That's all I ask. That's all I want. I don't need a lot of space. I want that. So anyway, that was another interesting. That's funny. And then I found out one of my good friends is moving. One of these days, I'm going to get her on the podcast. If you're listening, you know who you are. And oddly enough, our other good friend, Brittany, who has been on the podcast before, being a mom and an entrepreneur, and she is like the Airbnb queen. She has her own real estate business, Front Porch Realty. Check her out. She was helping this friend move. And I was just like, oh my gosh, there were so many aspects around moving and tying up loose ends and all this stuff. And that's when this moving metaphor just felt like, oh my gosh, this is absolutely what we're supposed to be talking about today. So I want you to imagine that these last few weeks of this snake year, this shedding year, because we're still in it, right? Just because the calendar flipped doesn't mean that we're still not in the energy of last year. We still are. There are still a few more weeks to shed. And this is a really good time to look at, what else am I maybe holding on to? This is kind of that final walkthrough, right? You've now packed everything up. You've moved everything out. You've maybe cleaned everything up and now you're walking through. Now you're walking through one last time. One last time. And did I forget anything? You're letting all these emotions come up. And that's what I wanted to dive through on today's episode because we can be really intentional about these next few weeks because we're about to step into that new home. And we want to be ready for that. And so hang with me here because I think this episode is kind of fun. I love a good metaphor. But first, I'm giving F45 a little shout out here in that we have a pretty sweet little dealio for anyone who wants to come check it out. It is 2 weeks for $26. Get it? 2026, $26 for 2 weeks. Come check it out. 2 weeks is such a perfect opportunity to get a feel for every workout because we have 6 workouts for the week and every single one of them is different. Every single one of them has a different intention, a different vibe, a different energy, a different goal, a different focus. And it's so awesome. And I keep thinking about this time of year and I know how intimidating it can be to start at a new place. And I'm thinking, I can't think of a better place to come into. You can get greeted with this face and this energy. And all the other coaches are amazing too, but all of the members, everyone there is so welcoming. And so if you are someone that is looking for a place, but you are feeling like you hate walking, I was that person. My previous gym did a whole commercial on how I was crying in my car before I went in. So that is real. And I understand that. And so I have so much love and compassion for anyone walking into a new space because, again, your protective ego is telling you all kinds of stories about how everyone's watching you, everyone's judging you. That is not true. And if you are around anyone in that energy, they are not your people. Find your people who are going to cheer you on, that are excited that you're showing up, that ask you where you've been, that give you high fives, that encourage you because those people are out there, but you have to allow yourself to receive that as well. Because we protect ourselves, we build these walls and we don't even let that kind of support in. But I'm telling you, that kind of support is there at F45 every single day. And so if you are looking for a place and you just want to come check it out, come on over. You can either use code Tami or hook yourself off with that 2-week deal. Okay? All right, cool. Anyway, back to the episode. So I want you to think about this old home. And you might be thinking of your childhood home. And for some of you, that may bring up emotions, me just saying that. Maybe they're loving memories, a warm feeling, or maybe you already feel yourself wanting to put some distance there and that I don't want to walk through that home again. And that's okay. Sit with that feeling too. There's something there for you. What am I still avoiding? What am I still trying to resist? Because that may be showing you the one thing that you still need to go to work on, the one thing you still need to clean up and pack up before you move. So pay attention to what comes up for you when I say that. So I want you to think of this old home, right? That front door. Think of that front door as your identity, these first impressions that we get, right? You see that home, you're already making assumptions and judgments and all these things. But this front door is basically who you learned would be accepted. The version of you that greeted the world. We always say, like, you don't know what happens behind closed doors. But this is the one that we present to the world. It might look all fancy and colorful and bright, but when you open that door, is that really who you are? Or are there other aspects of you that you are hiding in some of these other rooms? And so think about that. What is that identity? What is that front door? What do I show up as? And is that the true me? Or am I wearing a mask? Am I presenting who I think the world will accept? What version of you is greeting the world? And is that a true, authentic version of you? Is it kind of a quirky door that just looks a little odd in the neighborhood? Awesome, great. Or does it look like every other door in the neighborhood? How is that door unique to you? And if it doesn't feel unique to you, there you go. There's your opportunity in these next few weeks to think about, why am I afraid to stand out? Why am I afraid to paint that door a bright, bold color that I've always wanted to? This front door is the masks, the roles, the good girl, the strong one. All of those things that we think we need to be accepted out in the world, to be loved out in the world, to be seen out in the world. But is that who you truly are? When you open that door, is that truly who you are inside? So right there, I got to sit with that. I don't need to think about that. Because that front door should represent who you truly are. When people walk in, they're like, whoa, this really is you. This is really neat. Versus like, whoa, what the hell is that? Right? And I think that's what we're afraid of, right? We're afraid if we open up the home and people see what's really inside, they're not going to want us. They're going to reject us. And that is our own work to do. That is our own work to do, to go clean up what is there. So that way we can welcome the right people into that home who are going to see it just as it is, messy, unkept, whatever. They can see it in its most authentic state without you fearing judgment. And actually, I already had some friends over this weekend, which is still kind of a big deal for her to bring people here and let them see her in this space, knowing that her parents are separated. She lives in 2 homes. That's a big deal for kids. And we almost been here 3 years now. And this is maybe the second time she's had friends over. Actually, it is. And right away we get in the vehicle and they're coming here and she's like, I might need to pick up my room first. No, they're like, we don't care. You could tell it. She was like, well, and then she got here and she didn't care. It's like, oh, thank goodness. Anyway, that's a whole other story. But I will say, even just the thought of that brings up childhood stuff for me, because I was terrified if anyone ever just randomly stopped over growing up, because we were that home that you power cleaned the hour before friends came. And it was stressful and it was hard and I hated it. And now I understand why, all the different aspects of why we lived the way we lived. I understand it now from a childhood wound perspective, an energetic perspective, all of those things. And that's why having a clean space for me now is very healing, and that I know that I deserve a clean space. And I love that. Yeah, I might have things laid out on the counter or whatever, but I'm never like, oh shit, because it literally triggers me and it brings me right back to my childhood and that clutter and that chaos that was there and the embarrassment I felt if someone ever just randomly stopped over. And so I don't want to relive that as an adult. I can certainly find times where I'm starting to go there and I'm like, whoa, no, no, no. And that's usually when my energy is mucked up. I'm like, oh, nope, we gotta purge some things. We gotta clean some things. I will never forget probably the first summer that I was here, and it was a night that I didn't have the kids. And I had just turned on some music and I was like floor mopping and I was like dancing with the mop, and I just stopped and I started crying. And I realized, oh my gosh, like this was such a healing moment. And it was just me cleaning my apartment on a random Saturday night or something like that. Because I realized I wasn't doing it for anyone else but me. I wasn't cleaning because someone was coming over. I was cleaning because I deserve a clean home, a clean space, clean energy, light energy. And that was a pretty cool moment. But I also recognized, before I am going on a tangent, I apologize. I don't apologize because someone needs to hear this, obviously. When I lived at a previous home, I can't even tell you how many times I printed off a cleaning calendar, a cleaning schedule. I tried so hard. And again, even then, I loved a clean space, but I couldn't get into a rhythm with it to save my life. And I was just constantly feeling like I was digging myself at home. Like, why can't you get yourself to clean this? Why can't you get yourself in a pattern and a routine and a schedule with this and just keep up with it? And I would be so hard on myself. And there were times where I didn't want people to just randomly show up there either. I mean, and yes, when you have kids and everything, it's different. And that's really what it was, is it was just like, it was hard to keep up with all the stuff. But there were other aspects of that too, right? And obviously it was bringing back all my childhood stuff, which I didn't realize. And that's when it dawned on me, is it felt like I couldn't start just one project. I couldn't just do one room without being triggered to think I had to clean the entire house in an hour. And if I didn't have an hour or 2 hours or half a day to do it, I couldn't do it at all. And so I couldn't. That's why there was this block, because that was my old programming. That's how I used to clean growing up, is you cleaned because you had someone coming over and you better do it, and you better do it now, and it better be all done within the next 2 hours or you're going to be embarrassed. Time's ticking. And so every time I went to clean our old home, I couldn't do it unless I had the entire day to clean the entire house. And it took me a long time to understand that, to feel safe in that, and to be like, no, Tami, you can just clean the bathroom today. Just one room. You don't have to clean all of it. You don't have to clean the entire house in one day. One room is okay. Do what you can do with the time that you have. And when you can slowly get into a rhythm with that and a routine with that, it's not going to be this massive, overwhelming project. And that started to shift things from, it's like, oh, okay, like this starts to feel doable. But that's that overwhelm, right? It's like overwhelm is so paralyzing. And this shows up in so many other aspects of our life. It shows up at work, right? We let things mount up, or we get the task. And it's like, it's analysis paralysis, and you freeze. And when you feel that way, the last thing you need to do is freeze and do nothing, but you're stuck in that freeze mode. And that same thing was happening to me around this. So that was my little side tangent. Sorry. I'm not sorry. But I want you to think about that front door, because again, me looking at that front door, I presented as something very different growing up. I presented to my friends, to my teachers. That front door was very different than what was on the inside of that door. And I didn't let anyone know that. But I also didn't recognize what was going on within myself and how I was a chameleon, or how I was masking, or how I was performing. So no one really knew what was going on inside. Now, that front door, I feel, absolutely represents who I am. You walk in and you know what you're getting. You know what you're walking into. I feel safe and comfortable showing you these aspects of my home, of who I am. But that's taken a lot of work to do. So moving on, we've opened the door. Now we're going into the living room. And this is where I want you to think about relationships and attachments. This is where that connection happened, or maybe it didn't. And I know for us growing up, now it's very different with technology and things. We didn't have cell phones and that kind of cool stuff when I was growing up. So, but my parents were working. We milked cows. So the connection in the living room and having that quality time, that wasn't always there. And nowadays, it's so hard because we're running with kids' sports and all of these things. And then when we do have time to connect, everyone's on their devices. And so we're not necessarily making those connections. But I will tell you what, I can tell when my kids both need it. And it's usually when they're getting testy about something. And I was like, hold up, this isn't actually about that thing. We need to step away from technology or whatever it is, and we need to connect. As much as they don't know that, that is what needs to happen. And for many times, that is us as well. Because oftentimes we've been so disconnected, or we've been plugged into so many other things throughout the day, that what we need is actual true connection. But that puts us in a vulnerable place, right? Because if we didn't receive connection growing up and we tried and we made attempts, we're like, nope, that was too hard. Not putting myself in that situation again. Don't want to ask for that again. And I just had this conversation earlier this morning. Oh, well, truly wanting this form of connection, and when it's not there, it can feel like emotional neglect. But that can also create some really happy memories for you. Or it can allow you to be really intentional about your kids or your spouse or your family now. And how can we make sure that we find a way to connect every single day, even if it's just for a few minutes, and we have some of that special quality time? But when you're walking through that living room, you can start to think about these old relationships, these old dynamics that were between you and a parent, you and a sibling. Was there emotional availability, or was everything swept under that rug, shoved under that couch? And for so many of you, that is what happened. And not out of malicious intent. It's just no one was trained how to show emotions and how to fully express and make that living room come alive with all the feels and all the emotions. We sat there quietly, like the good girl, the good boy, didn't get in trouble, whatever it was. But this is where some of these patterns started, of people pleasing, of overgiving, avoiding conflict, not rocking the boat, walking on eggshells. So much of that happened there. And we got used to sitting on that furniture. We got used to where everything was in that room, and it starts to not fit. And when you walk back through there, you see that old plaid couch and like, oh, I'm not taking that with me. I don't want to avoid conflict in my life anymore. That no longer fits. I may love looking at that old couch and it may bring up some good memories, or maybe not, but that ain't coming with me. What are those patterns that need to leave? What is the furniture that no longer fits? And so what relationships have maybe you outgrown? Maybe it's just not your style anymore. Whew, this just brought up another memory. So when I was, see how this happens? Real time, folks. So if this is happening for you at all in this episode, I feel you. When I was in denial about what I knew in my soul was happening, that I was trying to avoid and resist, and that my marriage was over, and if I was truly going to own that, life as I knew it was going to be over. And I was grasping at things, right? And so we're going to get into this here in a second about remodeling, and that I was trying to fix this somehow. Just a change of paint, a change of color, a change of furniture. anything for this to feel a little bit more like home, something to get me excited again. And so we repainted everything because it was very bright and bold colors when we first moved in. Actually, I remember getting the paint, and my mom's friend, who is a painter, she's like, "Are you sure about this?" It was like a neon green. We did have to go back and put some black in the paint to tone it down a little bit because it did look like a Ninja Turtles room in a giant living room. So, but it was bright green. It was charcoal walls. It was very bold. And then somewhere along the line, I just felt like I outgrew that and I wanted to paint it a neutral color. And so went back to white walls and was going to accent with colored furniture and everything like that. So we threw out this beautiful white couch, leather couch that we had spent a lot of money on when we moved into that house for this Facebook marketplace blue couch that actually he just got rid of over Christmas. So he's also cleaning things out. But I was trying anything to just bring some life back into this space and change the energy there, not realizing that was just a temporary fix. And I got so far where put in this new colorful area rug, put in this bright, bold couch, got some pieces from my mom that was from my great grandmother and things like that. And so there was some meaning there, but then it came time to decorate and I froze. I couldn't do it. I got one wall and it's the most precious wall in that home and it's still there and I still love it every time I go in to pick the kids up. It's going down the stairwell and it's all of their artwork. It doesn't matter what it was. I found a frame for it and it's the coolest art wall ever and I love it so much. That was one of the hardest parts of moving out of there, was leaving that wall. I know that sounds weird, but that wall meant so much to me. There were so many stories with that wall, but that was it. I couldn't touch anything else. I would stare at these blank walls in front of me and there was this huge ceiling and this blank wall. And I could not get myself to try to decorate it. And then it hit me why. It's like, because you're not meant to stay here. And it took me a long time to realize that that was why, and that I had this energetic block of putting any more energy into this home that I wasn't meant to stay in. And so many people have asked why I didn't stay, and that was because I needed new energy. I needed a clean space. And as much as I love that home, it's not where I was meant to stay. And so much of this episode, I've been there. I've literally done all of these things that I'm talking about with you. And having to look at what did I outgrow, what no longer fit, and now we've gone through the living room. Now we're going into the kitchen. This is where we think about nourishment and worth and control. And so much of us have that tied around food and our food stories, or this constant hustle. We're constantly doing something. We're constantly busy in the kitchen. We're constantly preparing something, doing dishes, whatever it was. We're earning rest. I can get this done, then I can go sit down. And when you think about growing up, what was it like in the kitchen? What was the energy like in the kitchen? Was it calm and nourishing and you got to bake with your mom or your dad or your siblings, or you all got together and you all got to sit down at the dinner table and it was kumbaya? I hope so, but for a lot of us, it wasn't. There was stress around meal times, or things were rushed, or there were dishes piling high. If you ever did get to sit down at a family meal, maybe there was a lot of tension. Maybe there was pressure to eat or not to eat, or somebody felt like you were being judged for what you ate or how fast you ate or whatever it was. And so all of a sudden that mealtime no longer actually felt safe. And I see that so often when people rush eating their food. It's oftentimes because of a pattern from their childhood. Sure, you're busy. Sure, you got to get back to work. Or is it more than that? If you wanted to sit down, I bet I could help you figure out why your behaviors now around food are the way they are, because of childhood patterns, because of what you learned, because of what your body felt. I see it all the time. So how can we create this relaxed environment around food, around nourishment, and not just food in terms of nourishment? That's just kind of what that represents. If you want to take that even a step further, of thinking about our body being our first home and how we're nourishing our body, how we're taking care of our body, how are we fueling our body? I've talked about this on previous episodes. When you think about the materials that you're putting into your body, what are you building with? What are you showing up to the job site with so your body can go to work for you and to build this beautiful home? Because how you feed it reflects what you feel you deserve. And this was so clear to me when I was struggling the most, is that I didn't feel worthy of feeling good. And so I did things and I ate things that reflected that mirrored it right back to me. Like, yep, sure enough, You don't feel worthy. Now I'm going to spend the extra $1 on a side salad, or I'm going to get that extra protein in my food. And I don't care if I'm paying a few extra dollars. I am worthy. That is what my body wants. That's what my body needs, and it's going to get it. But before, we buy the cheap food. We're rushing our eating. We're skipping meals. We're showing up to the job site either empty-handed or with things that are not sustainable, that are not going to build that strong, healthy home. And so this gives you a chance to sit in that kitchen and to think about this. And this is the kind of work that we're going to be doing in the Nourished Woman as well, as going through all of these different aspects of the home, not just the kitchen, but this is a big one. This is a big one. But we're going to be looking at all aspects of this home. And did nourishment feel safe? Did you feel like you got the love, time, attention, care that you needed as a kid? And I'm not just talking about food, emotionally. Yes, physically, you probably had that roof over your head. You had food on the table, hopefully. Clothes on your back. But were those emotional needs met? Were you fed in that way? Was your soul fed? Was your heart fed? Were your needs met in that way where you felt full of love, full of warmth? And if that's not the case, guess what? That is now your work to do for you. No one else can give you that. No one else can nourish you in that way. And that is, again, the big old lesson is how can I do all of this for myself? This is just going to reflect to you maybe what was missing in your childhood, but now what you need to do moving forward. So now we're walking upstairs. Now we're going into the bedroom, and this one represents lots of different things as well. And now we're going to be walking upstairs. We're going to go into that bedroom. And I will say, if even just the thought of that, the mention of that triggers you in some way, you are welcome to press pause. You are welcome to stop. But if there's something in you that says like, no, you need to keep listening to this, because that can represent so many different things, right? It can represent safety. Like that was your safe haven, was going into your room. That's where you could color and draw it or imagine, use your imagination. You could escape into that fantasy land or whatever. In that bedroom, that's what that was for you. That was your one safe space. Maybe that's the one place that truly felt like you, the one place you actually allowed yourself to rest. But it also represents intimacy in a different form. And so when you think about our relationships now and what that represents, do we avoid true intimacy? Are we allowing people close? Are we allowing people to get in? Or are we blocking that as a form of protection? Is there shame around desire and pleasure and all of those things? And I just had this conversation earlier with someone, like how I grew up. We didn't talk about any of that stuff. I didn't even talk about my period. So you think I'm talking about anything about your body? No. You think you're talking about pleasure and letting you know, like, hey, that's a normal thing? No. Is that why I carried so much guilt and shame my entire adult life? Yes. Because it wasn't normalized that we have bodies and we have parts and we have things and pleasure is a part of it. That wasn't ever talked about, ever. And I even think about that now as my kids are getting older. You know, like, how do I have these conversations with them in a healthy and appropriate way? Like, brings up stuff for us. But again, no fault to my parents. They certainly didn't get those talks either. So how would I expect them to know how to approach that with me and 4 girls? Like, I just learned everything, like, well, don't do that with my sisters. Because I was the youngest of 4. Like, well, nope, not doing that. And so that can bring up a lot of things. It's not even just intimacy with other people, but with ourselves. And truly getting to know ourselves and our emotion and our desires, looking at any guilt or shame that we carry, when knowing, like, if I were to look at that and I were to follow those breadcrumbs of shame back somewhere, one, are they even mine? That's what I learned. This shit ain't even mine. When I look at my story, none of that matched the guilt and shame I carried around it. And I was like, oh, I'm letting that go. That ain't for me. So I certainly still feel it come up. Yes. But now I know that this was never mine to carry. And I don't need to let that hold me back from making connections with people. And I'm talking intimacy, even just with a friend and being close with a friend and sharing aspects and details of your life and who you are. And having girlfriends who will openly talk about sex and toys and things is like, what? We're a small town girl. I was like, what did you just say? What? Anyway. So it's been a journey, but I think about all of those things. And again, going back to the inner child, like, what is he or she truly asking for? And is it a desire to truly connect with you and to be on an intimate level with you emotionally and to not deny parts of you? And that we tried to deny that we have desires and things like that. Well, if that's true and you are literally denying an aspect of who you are. And that leads us into that closet where there's shame and there's secrets. These things that you hid that you didn't want anyone to know. Because if they found out, they may not like you, they may not love you, they may reject you, they may make fun of you. But oftentimes the parts of you that you hid were the versions of you that you thought were too much, that weren't enough, but that were beautiful parts of who you were. And even if you hid things that were shameful, if you can now look at those things and be like, oh my gosh, I understand why my protective ego would have done that. I certainly have things now I can look back that I used to hide in the closet. And now I don't have any shame around that anymore because I understand why my ego did what it did. And I can have love and compassion like, oh my gosh, it so desperately wanted to feel seen that that's what it did. And I can forgive my ego. I can forgive myself now and meet that with love and compassion and saying, like, you don't need to be in that closet anymore. I understand why you did that. And we don't need to have shame around it anymore. But that other part is sometimes these aspects of who you are that you don't want anyone to see because you want to keep them so sacred. But when they stay hid, then you're not experiencing that part of you. No one else is experiencing that part of you. And oftentimes it's the joy, it's the happiness, it's the pleasure. It can be the dreams, the goals, the vision. It can be all of these things that we're like, no, they're safer tucked in the closet here and pushed back in the corner. And so when you open up that closet, what's in there? What's in there? Is it full of boxes of guilt and shame? Is it filled with boxes of goals and dreams that you never allowed yourself to open up? Because all of them deserve to come out. None of that deserves to stay hidden in the closet. There is no aspect of who you are that should be hidden away. And I understand that can bring up all kinds of stuff, but that's why we do this work, is to feel safe in that. And to know that whoever I'm going to bring into my life is going to want to open those boxes with me and get to know those aspects of me, get to know these parts that maybe I've hid away, the lessons that I've learned, the mistakes that I've made. I want someone to know those things. I don't need to hide any of that. But I also want them to know about these goals and dreams that I have. And so those are the people that I want to bring into that home, not the people that I have to hide these things from. And so when you think about that and the people that are in your life, are you hiding things from them, parts of who you are, withholding parts of who you are? And a lot of times we do this with the people that we're actually living with. And oftentimes that is because it is their loss of love, their rejection that would hurt the most. The people that we love the most is where we fear losing their love the most. And then you can go to work and people get this full expressive version of you, like, what the hell? And then you come back home and you're a completely different person. That's something to explore as well, is how guarded we can be in our own home. And so I want you to close your eyes and walk through that. Open that closet door. What are the boxes that are there? What is hidden behind those clothes? What is tucked away collecting dust that you need to bring back out? Be like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot about this. I am using this again. I'm putting this on. I forgot how much I loved this. Right? Or be like, ooh, that brings up some emotions and some feelings and I need to work through that and I need to sit through this. I don't want to close that box back up and shove it back in that corner. That's not the energy we're in anymore. We're not sweeping things under the rug. We are still, again, we're shedding. This is the time. Open those boxes, purge that, shed that, get rid of it. Be willing to go in there and look. What part of me did I feel like I needed to hide? And how can you be the adult that has the courage to go back in and pull those boxes out? So then I want you to think about going into that childhood room. You may think of that bedroom that we just talked about as more so now, but when you have that childhood room as well, thinking about your inner child, thinking about those memories. What were some of those old wounds? What were some of those core beliefs? What are those moments that are frozen in time? Those core memories. Again, if you've seen Inside Out, it's such a great reference point to think, what are those memories where I know exactly what I was wearing, exactly what they said, where I was, what we were doing? Those moments that are frozen in time, there's something there for you There's a clue there for you. There's healing in that for you. There's a beautiful memory in that for you. There's a gift in that for you. Don't be afraid to look at those, even if it might seem painful. And that's the beautiful part of Inside Out, is when they learn that it doesn't just need to be joyful, is that there can be joy and sadness. They can coexist. There can be happiness and anger. It can be and. And the more we can feel comfortable with that, and learning to feel safe in that full range of emotion versus just the ones that we were taught were okay and safe and comfortable for everyone else, that's when you really start to see the color and the energy in that room again. And this isn't about reliving that. This is about acknowledging it. Acknowledging your inner child, acknowledging what he or she went through, and be like, I see you. I see you. And if I could go back, I would make sure that you knew you were never alone. And guess what? You're not now, because I'm here. I'm listening to this podcast. I'm listening to what she's saying. I'm trying to allow myself to truly feel this and allow these emotions to come through so I can feel this for you. I'm here now. You don't have to pack away the pain. You can come in and pack up wisdom from this room. We can move through that pain and leave that behind. But we can take the wisdom with us. And so when you're doing this final walkthrough and you're thinking about, what do I need to pack up in each of these rooms? What do I need to leave? And what needs to come with me? What needs to stay? That's important as you're doing this walkthrough in every single room. And then we got the good old basement left. And you've heard me refer to the basement many times and how we have kept our inner child locked down there, thinking that it was safer down there, right? But this is, man, that place that you have avoided. This is typically the big one. This is maybe the suppressed anger. This is the grief. This is the rage. This is the unspoken truth. This is all the trauma that you haven't had time for. I'm just going to put it down there. I'm just going to shove it down until it starts to manifest into physical symptoms. And now I wonder why I have X, Y, or Z going on with my health. When really it's your body trying to finally release this emotion, and it can't get your attention any other way. This is often also where the ego wants to keep your inner child hidden and tucked away. Again, it may seem dark, it may seem scary. I don't know about you, but I had an old cellar basement and it wasn't pretty down there. We actually, oh my gosh, wow. No joke. I have so many goosebumps right now. I just had another wow, this message was seriously so freaking spot on. So we have a huge pond outside of my parents' home still. And we had a laundry chute from the bathroom down into the basement. So you put the clothes on that laundry chute and they go down to a very dark, cold basement. You didn't always want to go down there. And no joke, there were times where we would pick up clothes and either we would find a snake or we would find the snake's skin because it shed its skin. Oh my gosh, you're the freaking snake. This metaphor just drove it home. That is a true story. We found, oh my gosh. We found snakeskin. We even found it in our attic in my old room. We renovated what we referred to as the attic for me and my sister. And I remember pulling up a floorboard and we saw all these snakeskins. Wow. Oh, wow. Sorry. You just witnessed a moment there of boom, absolute connection. Wow. Okay. Oh, I feel like I just officially jumped my own timeline there. Yep. Ooh, all right. Here we go. So just real on-air therapy with myself here. Thanks for tuning in. Wow. Yeah, but I think about that basement and how much we avoided it and how much we avoid these parts of us and how much we avoid doing this work out of fear of what we might find. When what you might find is a beautiful connection with your inner child, where you say, you don't need to be down here anymore, or you turn that basement into the freaking fun zone. It doesn't need to be the dark, dreary basement. That's a story that we were told. But what about when you go down to the basement? People have really cool basements nowadays. They don't have old cellar basements where they leaked and had snake skins in them. So we can redefine that. We can rewrite that story of what that basement actually looks like when we think about it in terms of ourselves and our inner child. Is it can be the absolute fun zone. That's where we go to chill. That's where we go to relax. That's where we connect with our inner child. That's where they go to play. Or that's where we connect as a family. It can be different. It doesn't have to represent the scary, dark place we're afraid to go. But what does that basement represent to you? Because all of it was growing up is that's the place where everything went that no one wanted to process, no one wanted to feel, no one wanted to talk about. We just shoved it down, we put it in the basement. And that might be that you got to bring stuff up. You're going to bring it up from the basement like, hey, guess what? We're talking about this. I'm done hiding this. I'm done putting it down in the basement. We need to talk about this. We need to have a conversation. Something needs to change, whether it's your career, your relationship, whatever, stuff with your kids. No longer putting it down in the basement, no longer pretending it's not there because we think that we're protecting everyone by not saying the things. You're not. It's actually causing so much more harm, so much more disconnection. And if you're afraid of confrontation, that's another thing to look at. All of these things that we feel like, oh, I don't want to go in there, I don't want to look at that, then that's exactly what you need to do. And if you don't feel comfortable and safe doing that, that's where you get help with me or someone else. Find a counselor, find a therapist, be like, I need you to walk me through this home. It's time that I look at this and I open these boxes and I open these doors and I see what's in there and I allow myself to feel safe in that process in doing this. And I want you to think back to 2025 and it being a 9-year. And that was a year of completion. Done. And I want you to think about the last 9 years of your life. Were you someone that tried to remodel every room? Like, gosh, this doesn't feel right. Maybe just some fresh paint, some fresh color, some fresh furniture, a new pillowcase. Maybe that'll change it up. Maybe then I'll get excited about this space again. Maybe it was new routines, new goals, whatever it was. You were trying to remodel. You were trying to make this home work, this room work. If you were like me, in the last 9 years, you did a complete demolition of that home. It was no longer a remodel project. I tried that, and that wasn't working. I was still staring at those blank walls. I was still feeling unfulfilled, unseen, whatever it was in that home. And there was no amount of remodeling that was going to fix it. That day was the reckoning. That day. Moving out wasn't as hard. It was the day I realized I would have to. That was the hardest day. And so over the course of that time, just started bringing down the walls and doing the demo. And that's when I talk about my journey with Fiercely Focused, when I was very much still in that home and trying to put on that face, I would hit live and I would go live every Thursday night and they would see this version of me. And as soon as I hit stop, I go back upstairs. I was a shell of myself again. And no one knew that because of the front door I showed them. And then when I started teaching Nutrition for the Soul, which was me finding inner child work, I had the rude awakening again that this foundation that I was trying to build on had cracks all over it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know I had childhood wounds. And now here they are and they're freaking everywhere. And some of them are really deep. That worthiness crack, holy shit. Some of them I was able to patch up a little bit quicker, but man, that one, that took a lot of repair over these last few years. But that was the work. It's like, I'm not building. And it wasn't even that I necessarily had a choice. I tried to build, trust me. God and the universe are like, no, you're not putting up a single wall until you create a solid foundation. And that is why I haven't been able to put out a program or whatever this entire time, because it was like, no, you were doing this the right way once and for all. You are healing this shit. You are fixing this foundation, and then you can build, so then you can help others. But if you try building on the shaky foundation and then you're going to try to help other people the same, you're only getting so far. You're not getting to the foundation of this. And that's not why we're here, Tami. And that's why I can't just hand you a meal plan, because that's like giving you the curtains. Like, what is that really going to do in the grand scheme of things? I know it is actually a bigger deal than just curtains, but maybe they're blackout curtains and you get a good night's rest, which I could use. Anyway, I'm really tired. I'm in that delusional phase right now, so you're welcome. But yeah, I had to bring all of those walls down. But here's the thing. In doing that and building that foundation, the next thing that needed to happen was I needed to be really intentional about how I wanted to rebuild this home. Because I got blank slate, right? Moved into this apartment, completely tore down my business. I was starting from ground freaking zero. Ground zero. And while that can be exciting when you're trying to build a new home, not necessarily when it's your entire life, but there's a lot of stress that comes with that, right? Like you want to pick the right things and do I have money to do this and all the other stuff that goes into this home. But you have to be really intentional about brick by brick what you want to put back in. And sometimes you realize like, ooh, this aspect, this thing that was always in my old home no longer fits here. It's not the right vibe. It's not the right energy. And what's really hard is when you realize that that may be people in your life. That may be a career you've always had. Something about it just no longer fits. It doesn't feel right in that home. And you may try to build with them. You may try again. And then you feel that wall crumbling all over again. And that is your sign that maybe you weren't meant to rebuild with them. Maybe you weren't meant to rebuild with this company. And if you can look at that and see that as an opportunity, an invitation, very different energy than everything's going wrong and everything's falling apart. Well, maybe it had to because you weren't intentionally looking at brick by brick and what you wanted to put on there. So you would rebuild without putting intention behind it. And the universe is like, nope, knock it down. I'm trying to tell you, you keep repeating those patterns, knock it off. You know that person drains your energy. Why are you still friends with them? You know that person talks behind your back. Why are they still anywhere in the rebuild phase? Unless you are helping build this foundation, support this foundation, you don't get to be a part of this rebuild. And I'm certainly not letting you in the front door. And that was a huge lesson in 2025, was in some ways realizing, again, who were the snakes that were still slithering around that really did not have my best intentions, that really weren't there to support me. And that was a hard one. But thank goodness for this healing to realize that it was more of a you thing than a me thing. And I'm sorry if my light is casting a massive shadow on areas of your life that you are not happy with or fulfilled with or whatever it was. I know I'm a light. I know I'm a trigger. And that brought out some snakes this last year. But it also made room for really awesome people. And so that's part of this too, right? Is like if I'm trying to bring everything from this old home and move it into this new home, there's no room for anything new. There's no way to freshen up and bring new energy when you're bringing all the old shit in. So if you've gone through all of this work to build this new home, but you keep bringing all of these old patterns and all these old beliefs into this new home, guess what's going to happen? Same old thing. So use this time now to get really clear about what do I want to bring with me, not even just from this last year, but from my life into 2026, this new home, this new energy, this new frequency. What deserves to come along? What feels good? What deserves to stay versus hell no? I'm not bringing those old patterns. I'm not bringing those old beliefs. I'm not bringing that old people-pleasing, over-giving mask again. I'm not bringing in old friendships just because I feel obligated. I'm not sticking with that career that is draining my soul. Nope, leaving it behind because you get this one chance to build this dream home. Whether you're talking about your body nutritionally or you're talking about your life, this is your opportunity right now. You've got this final walkthrough in these last few weeks to leave behind what was never meant to come with you into this new phase, this new chapter, this new year. So when you think about this final walkthrough, think about that phase of moving, right? You had to purge a lot of stuff. You're not taking all that stuff with you. You don't need to keep everything. Some of that stuff isn't even yours. Why are you bringing it with you? You're packing up everyone else's baggage, everyone else's drama, everyone else's childhood wounds and stories because they won't look at their own shit, so you keep taking it on, trying to fix them. Nope. You were leaving that behind. Some of the things have expired, and they're actually maybe no longer safe to come with you. Realizing that some things just belonged in a season for a reason. And that even though you may have so much emotional tie to them and that feeling of nostalgia, sometimes it's okay to leave it in the past. And that's where one episode I referred to people as your bookshelf friends. Some of them get put up on the bookshelf and that's okay. And you can bring them down and you can open it up and read it anytime. And then you have your nightstand friends, the ones that you're texting every day or talking to every week. That's different and it's okay. Neither one is wrong. It's just recognizing that certain people are coming to your life for different seasons and that not everyone is meant to stay for the duration. No one is actually meant to move into that home. But that they may just be there on the bookshelf or they may be on the nightstand or maybe those are books you needed to pack away and donate them and say, bless and release. Loved reading you. That was a great chapter of my life, but I no longer need that energy or that story in my life. Then you get to pack up what does get to come with you, right? And you got to be really intentional about what comes with you, what you're packing up, what aligns with you and who you say you want to be, what you say you want to do, What are the things that you need to pack up and take with you? Because I bet you better go back up in that closet. You better get those goals and dreams. You better be taking those with you. And I hope they're not so far tucked away that you completely forget about them, or there's some like hidden door, floorboard thing that you know where to find them. They're not so buried and so lost that you can bring those with you. Then you also think about what beliefs, what habits, what relationships, what kind of support do I want to bring with me into this new home, into this new venture? But then you're also thinking about the things that you're packing up, these really fragile items, these really fragile aspects of who you are, that sensitivity, that creativity, the things that we oftentimes get made fun of for, right? Oh, you're too sensitive, you're too much. Or you feel like that creative hobby that you have, people are going to think it's stupid. Oh, nice painting. You think you're going to make money being an artist? Like, you're not going to be able to play music. No one's going to pay you to whatever. Those really fragile items, what are you wrapping up with care and love? And recognizing that oftentimes those fragile items are those aspects of you, your sensitivity, the way that you feel deeply, the way that you think, the way that you create, the way that you want to connect, all of these things, your truth, your vision, your goals, your dreams, all of those things, we need to wrap those up as very fragile items, and we need to protect them because they got to go from this old home to this new home. There's this transition phase, which a lot of us are in right now. You just saw me earlier get super emotional about this old timeline into this new timeline. That in between, where like I'm not who I was, but I'm not quite who I want to be yet. That's a scary time. It's like this weird void, and you can feel it. So it's like, I got to take all of these things because there's going to be that question and that doubt. And I've got these fragile things and I don't want to drop them. I don't want to lose them along the way before I get to this new timeline, into this new home. And so, yeah, I have to put boundaries around the very fragile parts of who I am and who gets access to them. If I got to bubble wrap this shit up so I can protect my energy and my peace and my heart, that's exactly what I'm going to do. But I'm not going to armor it up. I'm not going to lock it away, but also being very mindful of who gets to help unwrap those aspects of you. Who are you allowing to be in that home to witness you stepping into them, to witness you using them? Because yes, we want to protect them, but we don't want to protect them so much that we're withholding them from ourselves or from others. But it's making sure that you're not bringing them out into a world that doesn't feel safe to you. But that's also meaning you need to feel safe within you, right? Because if you feel safe, then you don't actually really care. And that's kind of where I'm at, is like, hey, this is where I'm at. This is who I am. I left the sauna today being like, well, I'm so tired of this podcast, and probably be like, welcome to Tami's shit show. Like, I don't care. This is how I'm showing up. This is what you get today. I'm still bringing all aspects of me. Take it or leave it. I don't care what your opinion is of me, because I know who I am. I know what my values are. I know what my mission is. I know my heart. And so I don't worry about how my message is perceived by any of you anymore. No offense. I used to get really worried about that. And then that would block the flow. That would block the creativity. I had it all wrapped in bubble wrap because I was too afraid to put it out there and what people would think, because then maybe they would drop it, or maybe they would chuck it across the room. Like, this is stupid. Now, like, you can still do that and turn your computer off, and I don't even know. I'm just here sharing what is on my heart and what is being channeled through. But also know that in the process of moving, of packing, of purging, of all of these things it can be emotional. Absolutely. And this even makes me think about kids that have to move. That's a traumatic event. And I think about that with my kids. And I think about that often, about what that has to be like for them living in two homes now. And luckily, like, I feel like we've made it a pretty safe space both ways. But that's a big deal when kids have to go from two different homes. Moving is emotional, especially as a little kid, when that's all you know, and that was your foundation and that was your safety. And then you're getting told you got to up and move, even though you as parents are excited for this new opportunity at work and da-da-da. And we don't always think about that kid and how can we emotionally support them through that. And I will never forget this. It was actually at Aria's, I think, third grade. They had to read poems. And there was a boy in her class who wrote a poem about moving. And it ripped my heart out because I knew doing this work what that actually meant to him. And he expressed it so beautifully. But I was like, how many kids are not finding the words and the language to say how much that hurt to leave their friends and to not know and to have all this worry and all of this fear, all of the unknowns. I was like, wow, that kid expressed that. Whoo, now hopefully the parents can come in and support them around that. Because again, it's not that the event itself is traumatic. It's the lack of support around it that makes it that way and makes it that imprint that doesn't feel good. But even when you're moving and you're feeling that sadness and the grief and whatever else comes up for you as you leave this new home, allow yourself to feel that. That's part of this. Emotion is energy moving through the body, and you need to release that somehow. So that way you can lock up that door, close it, stand out in the yard and look one last time and bless and release, knowing that there is a whole mixed bag of emotions that come in that home, the happiness, the sadness, the grief, whatever. You have allowed yourself to feel it all to a place where you can feel comfortable about locking that door one last time, blessing and releasing everything that you learned, everything that you gained, every experience there, good, bad, knowing that all of it made you who you are today. But now you got that choice as you walk across that sidewalk, as you get ready to go into that new home. This is the time to ground. This is the time to clear your energy. You're not bringing in that old energy with you. But that's part too, where we need to take that time in between to ground. You release that energy. Okay, before I step into this new home, this new frequency, I need to feel safe within myself. And remember, when you go to this next timeline, when you enter into this new chapter, think about that when you move into a new home. You've got stuff that's unpacked. You don't feel settled right away. And it can be frustrating because you don't know where this is and you don't know where that is and you're out of your routine. You have to create that. You have to create that sense of safety, that sense of normalcy in this new frequency, in this new home, in this new timeline. But you have to give yourself time to do it. Because oftentimes we do that. Like, this doesn't feel comfortable. This is frustrating. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to what I know. I'm going to go back to that old home. I knew where everything was. It was right in that drawer, and this is what we did, and this was the dynamic, but now I'm over here, and everything has changed. And it can take a while to settle into that. And so change can often feel scary. It can often feel unsettling. But we need to allow ourselves to settle into that new frequency, and that it might feel uncomfortable at first. It might feel hard. You might feel doubts and all of those things creep in, but that's where you have to allow yourself to ground into the new frequency as well and learn how to enjoy being in this new space, getting excited about recreating. But again, if you're bringing a bunch of stuff in with you, that's likely not going to happen. But how can we learn how to feel safe in this new home, in who we are, and that your life reflects your truth, that your body reflects your choices? This is a huge moment right now, everyone. And I feel like I keep drilling home, but this is so big. Like, this energetic shift hasn't happened in so many years. So, like, taking advantage of it. And so, are you ready to leave that old house behind? And if you feel like you gotta, I gotta walk through one more time. I think there's actually something I left upstairs. You're like, maybe I need to clean that up a little bit before we officially lock these doors. Then go do that. Do that right now. Use this time right now to do that. And then you better get ready to step into that new home and claim it. Yes, this is the life I want to live. I am here. I'm unpacking. I'm moving in, and I'm freaking excited about it. And I want to think about these different rooms, what I want to put in each one, how I'm going to make them special, and think about that as different aspects of who you are, because your keys are ready. Your keys are ready. They're just waiting for that one final walkthrough. And that is these next few weeks before February 17th, when we shift into that fire horse energy. Because I hope that you have used this time to say your final goodbyes, to do that final walkthrough. And so you can even use this time now. Maybe you've done that. I feel like I've kind of done that. Maybe there are a few things that will pop up. Who knows? But I'm ready to open that door, and I might even just get settled in this last couple weeks of January and into February. That way, when February 17th comes, I'm rocking my new space. I got music blasting. I'm dancing in the kitchen. I'm there and I'm feeling comfortable. And that's the work that I want to help women do in the Nourished Woman Within program, is just that. We use this time now. We comb through your story. We do that foundation session so we can look at all the stuff. We can do that walk through your old home. We can connect those dots. We can look in each room. We can figure out, okay, what needs to come with you? What needs to stay? Then we can use this time right now to get really clear on what needs to stay and what gets to come with us. And then whatever gets to come with us, we use it. We use it and we create this beautiful, strong, healthy home inside and out. And you are now not only living in a body, that feels good, that looks good, that whatever, all of the things, but your life feels good, feels fun, it feels exciting, it feels fulfilling. It's something that lights you up and you're excited to wake up every day. That is possible for you. And if it feels so far off because you're in this job and you can't see the way out, that's for you to release and leave behind. Can you step into this new home and into this new frequency? And if you need help doing that, I got you. I have been there. I have done that. Just shared. I don't even know how long this podcast is, and I know my dad is actually a contractor, another full circle moment. And so I actually spent time out on the job site growing up. That was my favorite summer job. And so I know this process of tearing down, demoing, remodeling, rebuilding. And sometimes for some of you, it is easier to just tear it down and rebuild and start over. And others of you, you can remodel. And if that's what you want to do, awesome, then do that. But take a walk through that entire home and make sure that everything there still feels good and that you're not leaving anything in the closet or in the basement. But if you want help in that process, I got you. And I cannot wait to take advantage of this energy because, like I said, this is huge and I can feel it and I'm going to utilize it myself. And I want to pour all of that into whoever is going to be in this container with me and these other women. And if any of this is speaking to you and if this episode resonated with you, then please, please, please take that inspired action, grab your set of keys and let's go. Let's go. Giddy up. Year of the fire horse. We're doing this. We start in February, baby. So this is your time. Use it now, whatever that means and looks like for you. And I hope that you let your inner child come along for the ride because they're going to want to go through that walkthrough with you because they got stories to tell you and they want to come with you into this new space. Please do not leave them behind. Because especially if you try to leave them behind, trust me, they will get your attention. They'll be banging on that door in ways that look like self-sabotage. And that is not the energy you want to come into. So bring them along. And if you don't know how, I got you. All right. Until next week. Thank you all so much for this energy exchange, for pressing play, and for just being here along for the ride, not knowing what you're going to get every single week except pure, authentic expression and energy and channeling. If anything, this episode resonated, please take time to like, to rate, to comment, and please be sure to bring your inner child along for this ride because they want to come with. Please do not leave your inner child behind in 2026. All right? Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.